Hi everybody, at Sempar we've seen how focusing on well-being fuels our success. And in this episode of Unparalleled, I chat to the amazing Laura Butler. Laura is a well-being coach who supports entrepreneurs to achieve their goals through improving their well-being. We've used Laura here at Sempar for a couple of years now and had a great relationship where Laura's come in and supported the team to understand more about nutrition, more about stress, more about sleep and the importance of it. And that foundation has given our team the fuel for success not only in our business but in their lives themselves. So in this episode you'll learn how you can use well-being as a foundation and a fuel for your success. So please listen. And it's to enable us to bring you more episodes of Unparalleled, then please like, share and subscribe wherever you listen to your podcasts. Thanks very much.
Even when it feels like it's awkward and growth will feel awkward, they always say the growth is in the rub. Wellbeing is absolutely a personal journey, and it's about just that curiosity. What works for me? We need to do is shift our mindset slightly so that we understand how to thrive in any condition. Everyone's got this list of I've got to, and it feels so overwhelming to just be saying that all of the time to yourself, I've got to do this. If you can change just one letter in that from I've got to I get to, it completely changes the energy. You haven't actually achieved your goals yet, right? That's why their goals, their dreams, their ambitions, they're going to feel awkward getting there because you're going to have to take a different path.
Welcome to this episode of Unparalleled. Thanks for joining us. I'm absolutely delighted today to be sat opposite Laura Butler of Wellbeing Coaching. Laura's a wellness consultant who works with entrepreneurs, individuals, teams, and shares her knowledge and experience to help people live a better life. Welcome, Laura. Welcome to Unparalleled.
Thank you so much for having me.
If you want to do a better intro than I have of yourself and what you do and how you help people, please start. Yeah.
Thanks, Steve. That was fabulous. But to elaborate, yes, I do work with individuals and businesses with heart and ambition. So I actually have a coaching practice all over the world. So I speak to, as you say, entrepreneurs and I suppose driven individuals who want to make a change in their lives. And we work together on helping them achieve their goals and their dreams. And I also work with businesses across the UK to help them to support their teams, their staff. And we do that in lots of different ways, from workshops, as you know, and also one-to-ones with their teams. We go through all different lifestyle topics, from sleep to mindfulness, movement, all that kind of thing. Wellbeing days, off-site, on-site. So lots of fantastic work with great people.
Yeah, and I bet it's really rewarding, isn't it, from your side and perspective, once you get those people and start to see the impact, because the impact can be so huge on someone's life and what you're able to achieve with them.
Yeah, absolutely. When you meet with someone and they state for the first time what they want to achieve, and we flesh out a plan, and quite often that plan changes and evolves, and that's great because that's the journey. And it's so rewarding to see them get to where they want and beyond. And they've done it all themselves, and it's just having that accountability, that support, that consistent little sort of micro actions to get them to where they want to be. We don't have to change everything overnight. It's just shifting the focus slightly. And to be able to support someone on that journey is such an honor. And honestly, quite often I get messages from my clients and I'm crying, like just looking at how far they've come. But it's life-changing.
I think there's probably real similarities in terms of you nurturing the individual and us nurturing the business, in terms of like Sempar's approach to how they nurture that business and take it through. it's like anything, isn't it? You first got to understand the problem,
Yeah.
listen,
Yeah.
and then guide. And like you say, that it was quite interesting. You said micro actions. It very much is a lot of little things often,
Yeah.
but people see it as there's one big problem.
Mm-hmm.
I would imagine that a lot of your clients come to you thinking they need to make such vast changes
Mm-hmm.
to get somewhere, but actually you're able to break that down and
Yeah.
put them in, start to coach them in that way where they make small changes and see the response to that.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. And I always sort of say small hinges swing big doors. So actually, rather than thinking you've got to move the whole mountain, how can we chunk it down into those small hinges and those little things that can actually make the biggest difference? So you get to feel really good straight
Yeah.
away. You get to see your wins. Seeing your wins come through, you're more motivated to continue. And you become this like self-inspiration, self-motivated, self-start, rather than it being situational. So only being able to succeed in the perfect conditions, you're able to get up and pick yourself up and make those changes incrementally every day until you get to where you want to be. And I think also, you're right, it's very similar to what you do, but I think with everything is intertwined, right? So somebody might come to me with a certain goal, and it might be a professional goal, but actually we might only work solely on their personal life for a few months. And that's what's going to have the biggest impact on their professional success, actually. And it's mad to see how, their diet, changing that, or some of their other habits, or bringing in some movement, doing some, mindfulness, whatever it might be that we work on, actually has the biggest success, an impact on their professional goals, and sometimes vice versa. Everything is intertwined.
So I'm sure you've got some great stories and tales to tell of some of the work you've done. But tell us about one of the big transformations you've changed,
Yeah.
where you've changed someone's life.
Okay, so I do have some fabulous ones, and I wish we had time to go through all of them, but I do have one particular client. She really won't mind me sharing this because she just splashes all over her social media. She is actually in America. She's a realtor, and she's been fabulous to work with. Originally just signed up with me for 6 months, and we've ended up working together for nearly 3 years now. And she just keeps continuing to grow and succeed, and focus on, she likes to work on different areas. She's got personal goals that she'll achieve and then move on. And it was the beginning of last year, she came to me. She said, we've been doing really well. We've achieved loads of personal things. I'd really like to focus on my business now. I've only ever got it to 5 million. And she said, but there is an award I'd love to go for. But to get that award, I need to do 11.3. And she said, it just feels too big. It feels too big. And I said, look, well, let's set the goal. We've got 12 months. You've got 12 months to do it. Set the goal. I encourage her to set the goal, because I really feel like coaching is a big hug and a kick up the arse at the same time. So I feel like, it's a safe space. You can come, we're going to nurture, you're going to get a hug, but then also it's about action. It is really about, what are we going to do next? We're not just going to sit and talk about it. Let's break this into action. So we set the goal, and for the next 12 months, we talked a little bit about figures. She broke it down into what she'd like to do each month and what that felt like, and how she would go about sort of marketing herself. We did a little bit around that, but the focus was really about her. And we worked on her habits. We worked on her lifestyle. We worked on her diet. We worked on her downtime. We worked on her mindset. I would say mindset was the biggest thing that we worked on. And we were doing that, and she was amazing. Each session, she trusted me. She really took what we talked about and she ran with it. And I think that's the biggest thing, is trusting in the process, even when it feels like it's awkward, and growth will feel awkward. They always say the growth is in the rub, and she had some challenges and she pushed through, and it was an incredible journey. And on the 31st of December, she texts me from the States And she said, I've done 11.365. And I was, oh my God.
Wow.
And it was amazing that it was exactly 11.3.
Yeah.
You know, she needed to do 11.3 mil. She'd never done more than 5. And like I said, we really were just working on her.
Yeah.
And it just shows that when you set a specific goal and you set course for that goal and you turn everything in the direction of that goal, that it's totally achievable.
Yeah.
And it was just amazing.
And you have to give yourself to the process, don't you? You can't, if you're a resistor in that process, it's not going to help.
Yeah.
You've got to break that down before you start to set that goal and everything else.
And that honesty as well, you know, we're all going to trip up. We're all going to take a few steps forward, a few steps back. That's the journey.
Yeah.
That, you know, if we didn't do that, I wouldn't have a job because I'd say, go ahead and do that and you'd be able to do it. But that, you know, we're humans. We're here for that whole human experience. We have emotions, we have patterns, behaviors, we have things that are going to trip us up. And it's about trust, honesty with yourself, and knowing that actually if we can just keep one foot in front of another, moving in the direction of the thing that we want, we will end up there.
Do you find that obviously since COVID seems to have been an explosion of wellness and it's something that employers take really seriously now. It's something that there's hundreds of podcasts on it. There's lots of far more awareness than there ever was. Do you find that when you take a coaching client now, they're a little bit further down the road than they were perhaps 5-6 years ago, you know, in terms of like they're a little bit more adaptable to what you're going to tell them. They're a little bit more ready for that journey. Do you see that that's changed in the last few years?
Yeah, I would absolutely say that it has. You know, COVID, if it's done anything good, it will be that, you know, educating people on, yes, we need to be looking after ourselves because actually all we have is our health. And I think that now there is so much out there. People already have this background knowledge, background understanding of what that might be. A lot of people are still just dipping their toe. They still don't really understand necessarily exactly what it is and the importance of it and why they should get into it. So I do still get people saying, I don't really know, or don't know how that works for me. Or knowing like the importance of that. For me, the importance of well-being is it's kind of, you know, it's the foundation of success. We can only really strive for more, go for our goals, achieve what we want in this life if we have a really good foundation of well-being. And if we are feeling confident and strong and resilient to be able to do all those things, you can't do it from a place of depletion. So to answer your question, yes, people do have a bit of a knowledge, but a lot of the time as well, they're not quite sure how to implement it. So you could say to someone, okay, what would be the perfect diet? Or how many times a week do you think you should exercise? Or how do you look after yourself? What's your relaxation time? And they say, I should be doing X, Y, Z. But are they actually doing it, you know? And when you get to the deeper level, it's really understanding about what's holding them back and helping them to break down any limiting beliefs and to break any patterns and behaviors that are keeping them stuck where they are, and then setting up a plan for success moving forward. And I think that's where coaching is different to listening to a podcast or reading a book about the concept. It's then about, okay, how do we actually implement this?
Well, I think, I mean, from personal, you know, from my own journey, I think you find yourselves in different levels of overwhelm. So, you know, you can be in a position where you're in overwhelm personally, you know, business is going well, but it's stressful. You know, you've got children, you've got family, you've got all those other pushes and pulls in your life, and you're in overwhelm. And then you sort of start on this kind of wellness journey where you start to read a bit more, you start to listen to things, and you end up in just a different kind of overwhelm because you really now know a lot more, but you don't know how to apply it to you. And certainly from my side, when I've gone through that process, is you still don't know at the end of it what to do for you. And I think, and that's where this kind of coaching comes in, because it has to break it down for the individual.
Yes.
And we're all different, you know, although we've got similarities, we are all different, aren't we? And it's them finding their own way through your coaching, really.
Absolutely. Wellness, like anything, is a very personal journey. And, you know, we can talk about how we de-stress, how we relax, what we do to look after ourselves. But what I do for me probably wouldn't be the same as what you'd want to do for you. And so it's about trying new things. You know, actually, does that work? Okay, well, you know, that might be the craze at the moment. So I love cold water swimming. I love cold dipping, plunging, always have done. But some people would find that stressful, and that therefore defeats the object. So we really need to be able to understand ourselves before we can go ahead and implement any of these things. There's not one diet size that fits all, you know. It's about then actually how do we listen to our bodies and know what we need to fuel our bodies with for success for that day, getting our bodies up to speed with, you know, our goals and our ambitions. So what does that look like for me, you know, and what I need now might not be what I need in 10 years time. So following just a diet isn't going to give you everything that you need. And it's the same with everything, the same with exercise. Some people really enjoy lifting weights. Some people find that really stressful. So if you can do anything, it would be to start to notice what actually brings you joy, what brings you peace, what helps you feel, you know, de-stressed, and start to do more of those things. I had a client who, for him, you know, his meditation was actually cleaning his car. And I can't think of anything worse, you know. So well-being is absolutely a personal journey. And it's about just that curiosity. What works for me?
Yeah. A lot of the people listening today will be perhaps business owners. You know, obviously that's the audience we pitch to, and it would be, I think, from them. There's a lot of barriers, like there is in individuals as well, but for business owners specifically, there are always a lot of barriers to starting or keeping on the same road with that wellness journey. So in terms of you know, from my own personal experience, things like time and stress and different things. So although it is personal, if we took, say, people managing time, are there any tips that you would give to a business person today going, Laura, that's great, but how do I find the time to do this? You know, how do I actually break my day down in a way that is going to enable me to start this journey? Because often that's a big barrier to people actually starting, because they just don't believe they can do it because of everything else that's around them. How would you start with somebody with that issue?
Absolutely. And I see this all the time. And you know what? It's very valid, because business owners, entrepreneurs are busy. We're busy. We have a lot going on, a lot of people that want a piece of us that are, you know, and it's not just at work, it's at home, it's from every angle, right? And you are that person who wants to succeed. And so putting the business first, and then, you know, it could be that you've also got family, they're important. And quite often you find you're at the bottom of the pile. Oh, I'll try again tomorrow. I'll try again next week. Oh, it's going to be less busy when I do X, Y, Z. But that's not always the case. I think what we need to do is shift our mindset slightly so that we understand how to thrive in any condition. So success can't be situational. We can't wait for the perfect time. We can't wait until, you know, we've got a little bit less on, or someone doesn't need us as much, because inevitably that's just not going to happen. You know. So what we need to do is learn how to thrive right now in any situation. And one of the things we sort of talk about is, you know, if there's one thing that you can do this week. So to go a bit deeper into that, some people might be focusing on exercise, but some people might be focusing on diet. Some people might be focusing on, you know, personal nourishment, how they might want to de-stress and relax. And so rather than, again, trying to overhaul everything at once, choose one thing. Just choose one thing this week that you can do for yourself. And if it is making a home cooked meal, try and make 3 times as much so you can use it 3 days in a row. So you don't have to keep making more meals. You know you've got something really healthy there. If it's exercise, think about the minimum that you can do this week that would feel pleasurable, so it doesn't feel like a chore.
Yeah.
We don't want to be adding things in that make you go, that's also stressful. What's one thing that would make you feel better? And that can be anything you want it to be. It doesn't have to be what someone tells you it needs to be. And again, if it's relaxation or de-stressing, if you can take 1 hour for yourself this week, then great. Or alternatively, if you can't, if you can take 5 minutes a day, that's going to be better.
Yeah.
If you literally take yourself off for a walk, if you do some breathing, if you do a little bit of meditation, something that just helps you regulate your nervous system, gets you back into a grounded, relaxed state, then that's going to be so beneficial to keep you going. And if it's just the one thing, what is one thing you can do this week if you're in that space, and then set a minimum. And then if you can keep doing the one thing and compound that, and when you feel like you've nailed that in your routine, what's the next thing? And add that on top. And so we're not changing everything all at once. It's these just incremental shifts that we can do.
I think it's really interesting. I've just got a flashback to, I think it was probably as we were coming out of COVID, and we'd worked incredibly hard for our clients and worked long hours, and we still were doing a bit of that. And I really wanted to start, going to the gym or doing some weights again and everything else. So I just said to myself, right, regardless of what happens in your day, the last hour of your day, no matter what time it is, do your weights. And rather than say, right, the minimum is I've got to do 10 minutes, I'd got in my head I needed to do this whole weight session before I went to bed. So, and I remember staring through the window. We've got, although we've got the offices in Stoke, we've also got a small farm office on an old farm in Shropshire, where we have our Shropshire office. And I remember it was about 11:30 at night, and I'd worked at the office till about 10:30, and then I committed to doing this weight workout. And I was there in my t-shirt, sort of doing my weights, looking out the window, and in the window was the farmer looking at me, eyeballing me, going, "What are you doing? Like, really, what are you doing?" And had to go out and explain that I was. I think he thought someone had broken into the office, and he was like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "No, I really don't know, if I'm honest." But I convinced myself I had to prove this to myself that I was able to do it. And although I did do it for like a few weeks, every day I'd do that, and I was not going to let myself down on it. I was also breaking myself to do it, and so it wasn't really helping me. Albeit the only thing I felt was that I'd achieved it. And I was obviously doing something good for me. It was just not a sustainable way. And I think that's always the issue, isn't it? That a lot of these things, you're here to help them make it sustainable, to coach them in a way that says, so they're not sort of doing that at silly o'clock. And it sounds ridiculous now, but at the time I was just so desperate to make sure I was doing something for me that, and I knew that work had to be what it was because of the position we were in. From we were at the front line of supporting clients through financial crisis, uncertainty, pandemic, whatever you call it. We were having to work the hours because of that dedication, but I was desperate to do something that was for me as well. But that I definitely was never going to be sustainable. And so listening to you talk about that, kind of just start with something smaller. And it'll be okay.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's commendable. Well done, Steve, but quite extreme. And so actually being able to, in each moment, I suppose, prescribe what you need. So I think I've always sort of said that my superpower as a coach, and now understanding myself as I do, is to be able to prescribe to myself in each moment what I need. And knowing that that's enough, and being able to say, right, okay, no, actually, I need to go and take time out. I need to go and take a minute. I need to go and breathe. I need to do what I need to do. Or I need to go for a cold plunge. I need to go for a walk, or I need to eat something, healthy and nutritious, or, yeah, actually, no, this time I really need to go and do something more hardcore, some weights, and being able to prescribe what you need, or sleep, or a long, luxurious bubble bath, whatever it might be. If you're in tune with yourself enough that you can stop and recognize and then be able to prescribe something for yourself, nourishing for yourself, then I feel like that's when you can really feel like you've made it there. You can really know that you can rely on yourself, support yourself, and get yourself through any of those moments. And that's what I suppose resilience really is, and what well-being really is, because well-being feels like this really fluffy word still. People, oh, yeah, well-being, that's lovely, that's great for you. But actually, I think well-being is hardcore. It is actually, because it gets you, like I said, thriving. It gets you through. It gets you to exactly where you want to be, because you have followed through time and time again. You've committed to yourself.
It takes huge sacrifice, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And like all of the things that everybody else perhaps just takes for granted, or just says, well, I'm going to have that. It's quite easy to think about sacrifice in terms of diet. People who are really in tune with that obviously only eat what they need to eat, in terms of, and probably take enjoyment out of it. But that takes a bit of a process, whereas a lot of us will dive towards the thing we like the most, and often the thing we like the most is not the best thing for us. And that sacrifice to say, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to live over here and do this, is hardcore, isn't it? Because clearly not everybody does it, so it can't be easy.
Yep.
As we'd all do it.
Making those empowered choices, and knowing that when you say no to one thing, you're saying yes to something better, is really important. They're almost crutches, aren't they?
Yeah.
It's so easy to go, right, I'm going to get home, have a glass of wine, bar of chocolate, I'm going to just sit and binge. It can be a lot harder to go, actually, right now, I'm just going to cook a really good meal, and I'm going to get myself to bed.
But the other
do
side of that
something.
as well is that if you've created, so I talk a lot when I'm talking to people about like in business, about positive momentum. So it's all about creating positive momentum in your business, and the more of that you create, the more you're able to deal with these little bumps in the road, because you just fly over them.
Yeah.
And it's I guess it's the same from that perspective, that if on that day that person just did have a glass of wine, but that didn't turn into a bottle, it didn't turn into one every night, then again they probably just jumped over a bump in the road, because the rest of their sacrifice is still there, the rest of their commitment to what they're doing is still there, and it actually makes it okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I think that's, for me, I always think different little decisions, and we talked about micro actions, but micro decisions take you off path, don't they? So the worry is, a lot of the time, if you do start to do that one-off becomes 3 days a week, becomes 5 days a week, and that side of it. How do you help your clients, perhaps either, I guess it's down to the individual. Some individuals you'll coach that they can take that little decision and go, it's okay. And others, you'll know that it's not great for them, so you divert them away from that.
Yeah, absolutely. And it does depend on the individual. If it turns out that it's habitual, then that's something we look at, and we look at how we can swap things out and what a better choice might be in that moment. And that does take a little bit of time. We need to look at the root cause. Where's that coming from? Is that a stress decision? Is that boredom? Is it just a pattern behavior habit that's been stuck for a very long time that we don't even know why it's there? It just is, and we just have to divert another way. So many different reasons why we do things that it's getting to that root cause, understanding it, unpicking it, and then choosing a different path, and repetitively choosing that better path, and until it becomes, this is just who I am now, and you've forgotten what that other path was, and you're not even interested in it anymore. And that's what we do. But everyone is different as to what their sort of motivation is for that. And we don't we don't ever bring in any judgment. It's just curiosity.
Yeah.
It's all about asking questions and understanding a little bit more so that we can use that information and move forward positively. And then, yes, when you do have those little bumps, that's all they are. And you don't even notice them and you just carry on.
Yeah. So the podcast's called Unparalleled, and that pretty much defines as finding yourself at a place where you feel like you've got no equal.
Mm-hmm.
So a real position of strength. So if and the best way to define that in this conversation is somebody being the best version of themselves. So if you had a room of entrepreneurs who are all budding to be the best they can be in business,
Mm-hmm.
obviously it would really help them to be the best they can be personally as
Mm-hmm.
well. And like you said in the story that you told about your client, that really fueled the business success.
Mm-hmm.
So and it's a long way of getting to the question, but like if you were advising those, obviously a lot of it is about their unique self, but there will be things that come across on most clients. There's going to be tips and strategies that most people can implement that is a bit of a no-brainer,
Mm-hmm.
rather than, okay, we need to understand or identify what these bits relate to you are,
Mm-hmm.
but there is going to be some common things that everybody can do. If you could give us your top 3 or 4 of those, in terms of, so anyone listening thinks, I really want my business to strive here, but I know I need to kick myself into gear. What can most people do, and it's just a no-brainer for them to implement into their life?
Okay, so talked already about those minimums, but when you're looking at those minimums, I would say my sort of power principles really are diet, because you want to fuel your body for success. Your body needs to be able to perform. As an entrepreneur, you need energy, you need focus. You don't need to be getting those afternoon slumps, do you? Let's face it, you need to keep going. So if you can get your diet in shape, that would be one of the best things. We have to eat anyway, right? So while we're eating, we might as well eat the best that we can. Diet's one of them. Movement is the other, because not only does it make us strong and it gives us energy, it also moves through emotions. Tony Robbins always says, if you want to change the emotion, change the motion. So if you do some movement, you're going to move through any stress, anything that's sort of built up in you, and you're going to re-energize. So diet, movement, also mindset. Mindset is one of the biggest. And if you can practice the power of reframe in any moment. So one of the things I always say is sort of focusing on what I can do rather than what I can't do. So you've just switched the energy there completely. And another one is sort of coming out of sort of, this is happening to me, how is this happening for me? So if you can just start to reframe things so that you can move with positive intention forward, you're always in a growth mindset. You're not staying stuck. I got a little one that I like to use, which is, how we always reel off the sort of, oh my God, I've got to do this, and I've got to do that, and I've got to take the kids to school, and I've got to send these emails, and I've got this work to do, and I've got to make dinner, and I've got to clean the house, I've got to. Everyone's got this list of I've got to, and it feels so overwhelming to just be saying that all of the time to yourself, I've got to do this. If you can change just one letter in that from I've got to I get to, it completely changes the energy. It doesn't sit on your shoulders as this overwhelming, I can't breathe because I've got to do these things. It's like, I get to take the kids to school because I've got beautiful children. I get to send these emails because I've got a business, I've got a job, and it's something I enjoy doing. I get to clean the house, I've got a beautiful roof over my head. I get to. It just feels so much lighter, and it feels like you're blessed, right? And I'd much rather feel blessed than overwhelmed. So if you can do anything, really changing your mindset into, how can we just reframe each moment? What can I do? How is this happening for me? And I get to do these things because I have this beautiful life.
So those are your power principles:
Yes.
diet, movement, and mindset. Brilliant. And I can see even just the way you said got to and get to, you can see the difference in just even like the smile that came when you said I get to.
Yeah.
You know, I can imagine that's, and I think, I guess when somebody's in that got to state, trying to get somebody to a get to, it isn't just about, all right, change the language. I know it helps, but that mindset change is is got to be over a period of time. What sort of steps would you take with somebody to get somebody from a got to a get to? You
Yeah.
know, and how long would that normally take? I mean, it'd be different with different people.
Yeah,
but
sure. Well, so this is an interesting one. And again, it seems like a really fluffy concept when I'm going to say this. A gratitude practice, for example. There's so much research out there that shows that a daily practice of gratitude quite literally changes the neural pathways in the brain. And gratitude is known as the gateway drug. It's the gateway to happiness. And they say that we are happy because we are grateful. We're not grateful because we're happy. So it all starts with gratitude.
Right. Okay.
And if we can practice that daily, we are teaching the brain to search for the things that we're going to feel grateful for. So initially it's a practice. You have to sit there and you go, all right, today I feel grateful for the sunshine, my children, the food in front of me, this hot coffee, whatever it might be. And you're going to start practicing that, really feel into it. And you'll notice within, and I'm talking like a matter of a couple of weeks, you'll start to notice, you'll just be walking down the street and just notice something that maybe you would have never noticed before, and start to feel gratitude, start to feel happiness, start to notice the small things, because your brain is now wired to seek them out. And so something as simple as a daily gratitude practice, you can sit at the breakfast table, do it with your family, or you could do it at night. You don't have to write it down. You can just be drifting off to sleep, thinking all the things that you feel grateful for today. The research shows that it can change your mindset in a very short period of time.
And that's got to be connected to the principles around goal setting as well, because part of goal setting is visualizing. You know, what you want to see your goals achieved. What what do you want your life to look like? I guess that's all part of that same philosophy, isn't it? That saying thank you for what you have, visualizing what you want, and trying to get the world to give you what you want, I guess, is
setting course, right? You want to set course. You want to set course for the things that you want rather than the things that you don't want. And visualizing things absolutely does make a huge difference. So there is, I think Tony Robbins talks about this when he was working with Chicago Bulls, and he actually pulled them off any training for a month. So they didn't do any physical training. And I think the coach at the time was a bit sort of like, oh, okay, this isn't going to work, But what he did was he said to them all, you're going to do mental training instead. So you're going to every day visualize playing the game, and you're going to visualize playing it to your best ability. So where they'd been going out onto court and physically playing and still making some mistakes that they naturally do, or they weren't as quite as good at some things as they wanted to be, they would visualize themselves doing it perfectly, kept visualizing themselves doing it perfectly. And that practice and that repetition and the visualization meant that by the time they got back onto the court, they were doing it that way. They were actually playing
better,
much better. And it just shows that the visualization of things actually gets us to where we want to be, as much as the physical action itself.
I think I've seen something similar where they had two people get coached how to play the piano, and somebody got coached actually playing the piano, and the other person got coached visualizing playing the piano, and then they brought them back together, and the one who had visualized it was actually better than the one who had been actually practicing. Which is just shows you the power of the mind, doesn't it?
It's huge. It's huge. And so I say if we can stay in that positive space, practice gratitude, and anything, we talk about positive affirmations and talk about mindfulness, all these sorts of things, they work. They really
it's often
work.
human awkwardness that gets in the way, isn't it? That feeling of even like the breathwork stuff,
Mhm.
like sitting outside and doing breathwork in the morning, people feel weird
Mhm.
initially.
Mhm.
Again, either standing in the mirror or speaking to yourself before you go to bed,
Mhm.
we feel weird. It's like that human awkwardness. We shouldn't almost. This is a bit weird.
Mhm.
How do you help people get over that, or is it just you've just got to get over it?
Yeah, sometimes it is just pushing through.
Yeah.
It is, some of these things will feel uncomfortable because you haven't done them before, and that's okay. So actually being able to sit in something that feels uncomfortable, feels a bit awkward, is really good for like growing who you are
Mhm.
as a human, and for you to be able to achieve your goals, because you haven't actually achieved your goals yet, right? That's why they're goals, their dreams, their ambitions. They're going to feel awkward getting there because you're going to have to take a different path. And you've got to be able to trust these things enough and put yourself out of your comfort zone enough until you get there. And you've got to try and try until actually that just, like I said, it's who I am now.
Yeah.
And you'll start to notice the results quite quickly, but it's being able to sit in that
Yeah.
awkward, uncomfortable feeling of trying something new until you've grown into that space.
I guess the good part of it is that things like the bits you talk about the gratitude,
Mhm.
we can all do it.
Mhm.
Like it's not even with the time challenges, the stress challenges
Mhm.
of running a business. We've all got 30 seconds, 2 minutes
Yeah.
before we go to sleep. We've all got a minute in the shower,
Mhm.
or whatever it is. We've all got that time to bring that in.
Yep.
It's not the one. It's different to an hour in the gym or the
Yep.
bigger changes. These are smaller things, but actually have great magnitude if you implement them consistently, don't they?
Yep, absolutely. Those small hinges that swing big doors. But also remember, rather than saying, I can't do that because of X, Y, Z, what can you do?
Yeah.
I can do this
Mhm.
instead. And done is better than perfect. So, I've recently had my third baby and I don't have a huge amount of time. And so my exercise regime does not look anything like it did, a couple of
Yeah.
years ago. And I could get really frustrated with that. And whereas at the moment, the season of life that I'm in means that my time is, however it is, it's stretched and it's sporadic. And so I have to focus on what I can do and not get annoyed about
Yeah.
what I was able to do before or what I can't do. What can I do? And it's only from that place of sort of positivity and intention that I'm
Mhm.
fueled to go and do something else. And it might not be as long or as, hardcore as it used to be, but it's something, and it done is better than perfect.
Yeah. And going back to your first power, which was nutrition and diet, I think a lot of people, whenever you start to talk about well-being, instantly go to nutrition, instantly go to diet,
Mhm.
and it's probably the bigger area that most of us get wrong or don't have enough knowledge over. And certainly, it surprises me that not everybody knows that sugar is bad. Those sorts of things that that you have. Um, I guess if you think of it from a business person's perspective, a lot of diet challenges come around time,
Yep.
and obviously there's a lot of convenience out there.
Yep.
And I remember listening to a podcast with a guy called Dr. Mark Hyman,
Yep.
and he said, well, when you walk in a food shop, there's food in there that's going to be good for you. So there's going to be food in there that will make you well, and food in there that will make you sick. And you should really think of a food shop as a pharmacy. Really, you wouldn't go into a pharmacy and buy things that would make you unwell. And that really, I hear that every time I walk in somewhere, but I get constantly frustrated if I've got my day now that it's very much there doesn't seem to be the accessibility to that sort of immediate food that can help you and make you well in the day when you're under pressure. Do you have any sort of hints and tips over what people can do, obviously from a preparation point of view, or any easy wins that you say, look, if you find yourself in complete disarray, go to something like this?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So you're absolutely right. Food can either fuel you or it can take away from you. You're right, absolutely. And I think it's worth remembering that In any moment when you've got choice of food in front of you, what is the best choice you can make in that moment? So not beating yourself up if it's not perfect. Again, just what is the best choice in that moment? What's available to you right there and then. But I would say the biggest thing, and again, this just comes down to a little bit more forward thinking, forward planning, it becoming a bit of a priority, and it will become a habit. I always say, preparation is king really when it comes to food. So when you're thinking ahead for the week, if you meal plan, if you order your food shopping, so you don't need to go out and actually physically get it delivered, get all the items that you want, and if it's actually there in the fridge, you're more likely to make good choices.
Yeah.
And if you try and not keep the stuff in that you might be, snaffling away, the crisps and the chocolate, where possible, don't have them around because they are convenient. It's much easier to reach for that. So it's always about the path of least resistance. If you can, do some batch cooking, freeze down some meals that are healthy. When you're cooking anyway, just cook more and, freeze them. I always get the kids involved because I sometimes think, if I'm in the kitchen, I'm not with them. But actually, they're looking to you and they are, setting up their own habits for life here too. So I get them in with blunt knives and they're chopping stuff that might not necessarily go in the food, but they're there and they're helping, and it's time together. It's really, it's really nice too. But if you can, it's always about path of least resistance. So get the food in that you'd rather be eating.
Yeah.
So it's there, even if you're just grabbing a carrot, it's there, rather than the stuff that you shouldn't be. And then thinking ahead of time. So can I take stuff with me? Can I prep stuff and take it with me? That is always the key where possible. I'm so in terms of time poor, as it were. So I love one pot meals when I get home. Just throw everything in, season it all. It's in. Loads of chicken, loads of veg, lovely. Just try and keep it simple. It doesn't have to be gourmet. It can still be tasty and healthy. But I would say when you haven't got a huge amount of time, just try and plan ahead where possible on a weekend, and just what is the best decision I can make for myself in this moment.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I was talking to somebody. I had some genetic methylation test I was telling you about before, and they kind of given me a sort of food diary of things that I should eat and things that I shouldn't eat and stay away from. And we were talking about breakfast, and here's some ideal breakfast. But if you can't do that, say you're rushing out the door, if you've got to go somewhere quickly, just an apple and a handful of walnuts or something like that, or just any nuts really, and just that's still fine. Don't because I think often, like I know I've had this where I'm trying to put pressure on myself to be to lose weight, to diet. You're almost looking for that kind of perfect day and solution, and it's actually that still stops you going and grabbing a bacon sandwich or something like that, or it stops the trip to somewhere that you wouldn't, you would let yourself down, and you think, well, actually, you said the word food is fuel. That's the type of approach, isn't it? Well, I just need to refuel, and if you were putting something in your car to get you another 100 miles down the road, you're not going to put something in your car that's going to say, well, it'll get you 20, then it'll need a rest. Yeah,
Exactly.
This so it is treating it more as fuel, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think, so for me, those kind of go-tos, and this is where, again, we need to kind of change our perspective, because in the Western world, we think breakfast has to look a certain way, and we haven't quite got around the fact that, cereals and things like that, just A, don't fill us up, B, you're going to get a sugar slump and be knackered in a couple of hours, and then you're not going to be able to focus, you're not going to be full, you're going to be maybe hangry, you're going to be searching around for the next bit of sugar. Cereals and toast and things like that, they're just not really fuel that we need. So I just grab a packet of salmon out of the fridge, just eating a packet of salmon, it doesn't look particularly anything. It's not that exciting. It's not, but I know that it's healthy fats, it's good protein, and that's going to keep me going way better than if I put a piece of toast in the toaster.
Yeah.
Breakfasts don't have to look a certain way. I love, savoury breakfasts that people might go, but surely that's like your dinner. No, because it's really good for me.
But again, it's all
So-
these kind of our view that we talked about human awkwardness, but it's our
Yeah.
view of the world, and it's
Yeah.
what is okay and what isn't. And actually, they're quite skewed anyway, aren't they? They're not real. They're not real. Those views of our world that we all carry from perhaps our upbringings or whatever. They're not. They need reframing.
Yep, exactly. Or just boil off, a batch of eggs at the beginning of the week, keep them in the fridge, a couple of boiled eggs in the morning. That will keep you satiated, give you loads of fuel, and they're easy. You just have to do one batch and they're there. Try and make things easy for yourself. Really.
That path of least resistance.
Yeah.
If anybody who's listening today wants to learn more about you, wants your help, how is the best way for them to get in touch with you?
So you can go to the website wellbecoaching.co.uk. I am also on Instagram, Laura Carmen Coaching. You can find me there. But yeah, just reach out. Yeah.
I think, it's been a great conversation as always. I know you do a lot with our team and a lot with the individuals in the business, and it has a massive impact in terms of, I definitely believe that what you do with our team helps our end result as a business. And certainly the more I focus on wellness and more I focus in that area, the more we see the results in the business. So there definitely is, anyone listening, there is a real correlation between getting yourself into a position that then will fuel your business. So anybody is struggling with that, then please reach out and find Laura on those platforms. Laura, just to finish up, if you could leave our listeners with one message about their wellness journey, what would it be?
One message about their wellness journey.
One thing to start, just that somebody out there that's first step. What would you advise they do?
Find something that you enjoy, that you love, that brings you happiness and nourishment at the same time. Just one thing that gives you real personal nourishment. Mine is cold swimming. Yours can be exactly what you want it to be. If it's cleaning your car, great. Whatever it might be, find that one thing that lights you up, makes you feel fantastic, and do more of that.
Yeah, brilliant. I think that's lovely. Great way to end. So thank you for joining us again.
Thank you so much.
And see you soon.
See you soon.